I'd like to welcome to order this October regular meeting of Lincoln County Board of Education. Welcome everybody this evening. We need to set the meeting agenda. Any questions on the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Motion Bruce, second by Ricky. Vote, Etta?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. Do you have any public comment? Nobody signed? Okay. Superintendent and staff reports. You can read those at your leisure. If you have questions about them, I'll direct you to the appropriate ones. Do you have questions?
I do, but I can direct it to Mr. Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Okay. Very good, thank you. We have fall iReady presentations from Crab Orchard, Highland, Houstonville, and Lincoln County Middle School. Do we have particular orders that we're going in?
We can ask for volunteers first. If you want to go first before we get on you.
I'll go first.
Okay.
There we go.
Mr. Ledford.
It's still up. So what I shared with you guys, and I think Colleen got it into the e-meeting, it's basically what we're looking at here. It's just from the iReady report. The first 3 slides are from reading, and then the second 3 slides are from math. So overall, we had 390 students take assessment. That's K through 5. We've got 40 preschool, so total enrollment of 430, but 390 took it. And the first slide that you've got there shows that overall placement. So just kind of some things that jump out there. Only 20% at 2 grade levels or more below, 2 grade levels below or more. So, you know, you never want to see a huge number there in the red. So only 20% is a pretty good number. You're always going to see that kind of that big chunk at 1 grade level below, especially with fall iReady being the first go around. You know, those students being 1 grade level below isn't anything that we're going to have a huge knee-jerk reaction to. And then 28% are already at or above grade level. The second slide goes into the domain. No, you're good. I'm just right there. The top 3 lines there being phonological awareness and phonics and high-frequency words. Talked to Ashley and Jennifer a little bit yesterday, and that's fairly common as far as some of that foundational stuff. So you like to see those numbers of students already on grade level being pretty high, which we have there. And then the second half of that chart falls down into vocabulary and into comprehension, which we expect to trail a little bit behind that. So the green on grade level numbers being a little bit lower in the vocabulary, and the bottom part of that is to be expected, but you still don't see a ton of numbers jumping out on the back end of that either. So not an overwhelming number of students that are 2 or more grade levels below on any of those domains. And then the third slide breaks it down by grade level. So if you look at the right-hand side of the kindergarten chart there, you're going to see 0%, 0%. Obviously, those kindergarten students can't be more than, you know, 2 or more grade levels behind. So zeros there. And then one of the things that jumped out at us was the 3rd grade. Most of the time, what you see, like I said before, is you'll see a lot of students in that 1 grade level below. But our 3rd grade, we noticed it was fairly extreme. Like our at or above grade level numbers were higher, and then so were also our 2 or more grade levels behind. So it creates a little bit of a challenge for those 3rd grade teachers. But one of the things that they're doing is some station teaching, so they're able to kind of ability group those students. So when you've got those students that are already on grade level in some of those domains, they don't necessarily have to slow down for the students that aren't. So we can station teach some of those and put them in the same group, and then they can advance those a little bit more. But it makes it a little bit tougher for the teachers. They have to be strategic about those groupings. All the rest are pretty much what you expect. 5th grade being at a little over 40% there, 2 or more grade levels above is a little bit concerning. Probably keep an eye on that going into the winter iReady. You know, the fall iReady, you expect a little bit of that, but of the 59 5th graders there, a little over 40% at 2 or more grade levels above. So overall, the reading was about where we expected it to be. We compared it to last year. I originally was going to do some of that comparison tonight, but I just decided to stick to what we had this year. So we're about on pace for where we were last year. So nothing really jumps out as there is too concerning, but some things that we've got our eye on, and then some other things to be happy about too. You know, the 3rd graders being 47% of them on or above grade level is promising, considered it's only the fall. They haven't had a lot of third grade content yet, so they're doing really well. And that's our COVID group. So, you know, those are the babies that went home early kindergarten year, and then first grade year was, you know, very, very different. So they lost a lot of that foundational stuff, but closing that gap pretty well. Then if you jump over to math, your next three slides will be math. Keith, if you go up, you can switch from reading to math up a little bit higher. So math, what we noticed was a little bit more consistent across the domains. You'll see there similar numbers, but probably a little bit better than reading. Still had 390 take it, but only 13% overall, 2 more grade levels. So 15 of those students being 3 or more and 37 being 2 or more. So only 13%. You got your big section, almost 70% of them, 268 students being 1 grade level behind, which we're good with. I mean, then you do have your 18% that are on grade level or above. So a little bit fairly balanced out like reading was, a little bit a few more in that middle section, not as many 2 or more behind, which is a good thing. The domains were a little bit more consistent with math too. You really didn't see any that were extremely different than any of the others. Number operations, algebraic thinking, measurement data, geometry, all pretty consistent there. So, which is a good thing. It allows our teachers to kind of follow the curriculum, the math that they had already intended to do, and not have to spend more time on something that maybe was a little bit lacking whenever they looked at the fall already. And then it does the same thing at the bottom. It's going to give you the by grade level breakdown, and pretty consistent there as well. A little bit different here. You know, we saw the third grade reading numbers were, that middle section was smaller. It's the opposite here. So once again, a little bit challenging for those third grade teachers. It seems to be kind of an extreme group, you know, probably because COVID affected a lot of them in a lot of different ways. Some of them got really good stuff whenever they were going through some of that stuff, but some may not. So it creates an extreme group. So that those third grade teachers are going to have to be very strategic about some of those things. But overall, when you look at the red, nothing really jumps off the page there. To the 29% in third grade was the highest number. Fifth grade, we're really pleased with 30% already being at or above grade level. And then if you combine that with only 1 grade level behind, a little bit over 80% of the fifth graders are either 1 grade level behind or better. So kind of combine the green and the yellow there, we can have that conversation with some of those too. So lots to be happy about. We compared the math to last year's as well, and it corresponded fairly well with fall. Once you get the second go around of winter, it allows you to compare, and then you can start looking at growth and doing some of those things, and you dig a little bit deeper, making sure the students are progressing. But initially, we were overall very happy, and it's kind of where we are. So, any questions or anything I can address? I'd be glad to.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Martin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who'd like to volunteer to go next?
I am. Oh, sorry. You want to go ahead?
Oh, I was just gonna recommend that, you're fine.
Okay, for Highlands already, what we did was we kind of broke things down into the most critical areas of need. So on the third slide, for our reading, we wanted to concentrate on the kids who were scoring in tier 3. So that's your kids who go and get interventions from like your reading and math interventionists, who you all have funded with our reading grants and supporting our math grants. Our lowest areas of scoring were vocabulary and comprehension of informational text. So our action plan that we have for this, and this is on the 4th slide, is we are working with Orton Gillingham Strategies, and that was also another piece of training that was made possible with our reading grant, with our RTA grant. And also we're using a program called Scholastic Word. Mr. Abbott told me about that program. And another thing we're going to do is we're having, last year we started a tradition we're doing a vocabulary parade. And each kid in the school dresses up as a vocabulary word. And they come to school and they tell what their word is and the definition of it. So like, we had kids come last year. We had this one kid come, had a really big, huge wig on, football jersey, and his word was fanatic. And so he talked about his word and his definition. For math, 36, or no, for reading, another thing that we were targeting was informational text as well. And one way we wanted to help grow that for next time was 45 minutes on the MyPath part of iReady, because when the students take the assessment, it puts them where they're supposed to be in the program so that they can grow at their own pace. And then the teacher also has the capability of going in that iReady program and assigning a lesson just in the deficit area that a child has. So we're working on that with our teachers. We're really stressing that. And another thing we're using is, a few years ago, you all bought the Fontes and Pinnell reading materials, and we're doing small group instruction with read alouds and mini lessons with our Fontes and Pinnell materials. For math, which is the next slide, our lowest scoring areas, that's our students that were in tier 3 school-wide, were in measurement and data and geometry. And one of the things I felt pretty good about that one is geometry hasn't been addressed in our curriculum yet. So what our action plan is, which is on the next page, is we're doing a short 10-minute, like a spiral review. It's kind of like a math warm-up each day, so that the kids can get used to learning those geometry terms. And we are making a lot of use of those KCM resources that we have also gotten from the board support. And when we go into the classroom to do walkthroughs, we are concentrating on making sure that all of our kids who are younger have manipulatives in their hands, so they can go from the concrete to the abstract understanding and build that number sense. And our last action plan is to address the measurement and data. And we're also using the MyPath for that in iReady, and small group instruction on those learning targets. And we'll just keep on working the work and trying to grow our students and get ready for the winter benchmark. And then on the last slide, I have thanks y'all. And I thank you for letting me talk about our school, but I also wanted to give a quick thank you for something else. We had our parent parking lot page over fall break, and our parents are absolutely thrilled. It has made everything, dismissal time, just so much better. So we appreciate that. So thanks, Mr. Yaden and the board. Thank you.
Okay, down to 2. We got one coming up now.
Well, I'll be honest, I tried to get out of this. And not because I don't like to talk or get in front of people, because that definitely is not true. It's just our deficits have been very public with our academic audit, just various things that you all don't need reminders of. But anyway, our deficits have been pretty clear. We've bled out loud. But it is important to reflect where you're at. I just want to use a small portion of this presentation for that, and more so on where we're going. So our overall reading data, I just pulled our triangle here. Those of you who have been in the education business for a while, you recognize immediately that this does look good. Okay, our red at risk for tier 3, 51% of our building is below grade level. And the majority of those are significantly below grade level. Tier 2, 21% of our population, and tier 1 is 27%. Okay, and the key on the side shows you 2 or more grade levels, and to have half your school sitting in that position is pretty significant. For a closer look at our reading, unlike Houstonville, which I'm so excited to see Houstonville sitting at those numbers, because that means that's going to feed up to me. And we're, as everyone rises, we rise, right? And so unfortunately, we've got a very large percentage. You can see from the railroad tracks there, the shading that is different, that's the group that's actually 3 or more grade levels behind. So we literally have some students that are at a kindergarten level. Now, it's middle school and effort comes into play, but there are obviously significant gaps. So that was a little look at our reading. Our math is slightly worse. You can rally around. At risk for tier 3, are you seeing why I didn't want to present yet? Why we didn't know this. 57% is at tier 3, and we've got 30% at tier 2, and at 13% at tier 1 for our math scores. The breakdown looks much the same, although you do see backwards of what you want it to look like, obviously. So on the far extreme, we only have 3% that are actually above grade level, at or above, and 40% that are 3 or more grade levels below. So our next slide shows you what a traditional pyramid should look like. Okay, again, I know I'm speaking to educators, but the vast majority, that 80 to 90%, that's where the bulk of your kids should be. Our kids should be a tier 1, meaning they can get all regular instruction. Our tier 2 should be 5 to 10%. So that's like, a lot of times that can be done in your classroom with some modifications, with some interventions, some pull-out interventions. But again, that's kids that you're probably going to be able to move pretty well. And then 1 to 5% would be in our tier 3. So we clearly have a very upside down triangle. And so that's why it's so very important, all the work that we're doing. So how are we going to turn this ship around? Some of these things I've already reported to you all, but I just wanted to reiterate, these are not just ideas, these are things that are all actually in practice right now. So we no longer use online platform of Summit Learning. We have had the addition of 2 interventionists already. We have a math and reading interventionist that will perform all of our tier 3 instruction. And then an additional one is being added in in January. We have implementation of co-teaching. While co-teaching is the regulation, right, for math and ELA, it is co-teaching with intentionality and the implementation of actual station teaching. So we are seeing station teaching for the first time, quite honestly, in all of our co-teaching classes. And even our regular ed teachers are encouraged to do station teaching, because we know the more we can break down those groups, meet those individual learners, better results that we get. So tier 2 students right now, you know, and we saw from those graphs that it's vast, but our ELA and math teachers are servicing those tier 2 folks during our SOAR or our mentor time, which meets daily for 30 minutes. So 3 days a week, our ELA and math teachers are doing that direct instruction with the small groups, with a cap of 15 per group. Ideally 12 or less is what we're going for. Tier 3 instruction is where they are getting intervention daily for 50 minutes during what would have been an encore class. We have 2 encore classes, 2 electives. If they're tier 3 though, we have said we're pulling from one of those, and instead of making a revolving door, they're going to be in that intervention for at least 9 weeks for 50 minutes. And they are splitting that time, because likely if they're tier 3 in reading, they're probably tier 3 in math, or possibly tier 2 in both of those, and they need to pull out just to service both of those things. So lots of moving parts. We've had very intentional planning and execution of our behavior, expectations, and consequences. We are seeing some fruits of our labor in that. And so that is excellent. Anyone who has come into our building, contrary to what you might see on social media, anyone who has come into our building has been very positive about the culture shift that they're seeing, the positivity that they're seeing, the engagement among staff and students is up. And so that's something that I'm very proud of, and something that was very dear to me moving into this. Next slide is just a continuation of what we are doing, not what we will do. So we are using a curriculum that was standards-based and designed by our teachers. There's an intentional focus on writing quality learning targets, utilizing formative assessment, that drive instruction, and we are increasing engagement. And while those may seem very simple, those are the cornerstones, right? You have to know where you're going. We have the new platform that we are using for benchmark and remediation, as you all have touched on for already. We have best practice resources that are pouring into us. We're using Think Circa for our writing, and we're using the group, the SREB group. I can't recommend them enough. They've been fantastic in not only supporting me, but supporting my teachers, not just training them, but going in, doing observations and giving authentic feedback. They've been fantastic. Special education consultant, we've had Tina Ray with us, who's an extra push in, because as Claudia can attest, we have very high percentage of special needs students, and there's not enough of us to go around, is there, Claudia?
And they keep coming.
Yes, they do. We're just a beacon. And so working with our teachers, that's been very helpful to push into classes. She's modeling co-teaching, because we have very new special ed teachers that just need that extra support. We meet weekly for PLCs on Wednesdays, and we have a very strategic plan to address everything that we know is a deficit. So each week is a different area of focus. This week was just behavior, for example, looking at all of our behavior data. And then last, teachers are receiving walkthroughs every 2 to 3 weeks by an administrator or instructional coach. So every teacher is being seen every 2 to 3 weeks, which not only enhances the classroom for them, for us, students need to see us, teachers need to see us, giving authentic feedback and just helping to reinforce our expectations. So our goal this year is to move all students up 1 or more grade levels. We feel like that is very doable. When I had to communicate our state assessment data to our staff, I reiterated to them that we're not going to beat you over the head with this. We knew where we were, but it's exciting to see we're not going to be in that place next year. And so it can't possibly, we can't possibly not grow with everything that we're doing. And so that's pretty exciting. So, thank you. Is there any questions?
Questions or comments? Thank you. Last but not least, we have Mr. Abbott.
I'm going to refer primarily to the handout that the board members have, but the iReady graphs are up here. So school-wide reading data shows, and this is on page 2 of your packet, that we're beginning the year with 18% of our students who are on grade level, 52% are 1 behind, that's the yellow, and 30% are 2 or more behind. Yeah, if yours is scrolling just a little bit, let me see. A little more, that's last year, scrolling down. 1 more for you too. But it is page 2 in the board packet, I think. So a couple of things that we noticed: our high subdomain performance is in phonological awareness and high frequency words. We have had a good strong push in our primary reading, and I'll talk about that here in a bit. Our lowest subdomain performances are in vocabulary and comprehension of informational text. Our biggest room for growth that we have seen is in novice reduction with our 3rd grade group. And like Mr. Lefford said, that's our COVID Cubs that we're really trying to target. In math, and I'll refer you to page 5 in your packet. In math, our school-wide math data shows that when we begin the year, 11% of our students are on grade level, that's green, 60% are 1 grade level behind, and 29% are 2 or more behind. Our high subdomain performance is in measurement, data, and geometry, while our lowest subdomain performance area is in numbers and operations. Our biggest room for growth and novice reduction is in our 4th and 5th grades. So I want to share some blows and grows with you based on the data. It helps me to look at, where we were this time last year as well. And so if I refer you to pages 2 and 3, that's our reading data. The page 2 will be this year's reading data. Page 3 will be last year's at the same time. In both reading and math, compared to this time last year, our starting line is a little further up towards the finish line. That's good news for me. Our reading, we have 8% less novice than we had last year to start off. In math, we had 7% less novice and 2% more proficient. So to me, that indicates that we're reducing that red part of the pyramid and increasing the yellow and the green. Next thing in math, we're starting off higher in all 4 of the subdomains of the math I-ready diagnostic as compared to last year. So again, that starting line is moving closer. And in reading, we're starting off noticeably higher in literature and informational text comprehension as compared to the beginning of last year. And to me, I attribute that to, like Ms. Montgomery said, our F&P, our Fontes Infantile implementation, the interactive read alouds and the guided reading that we're able to use. It really hits comprehension pretty hard. And we've started this year noticeably stronger than what we were last year this time. So let me talk about some room for growth that we have. We are deliberately in math, we're deliberately and intentionally working on school-wide numeracy according to scope and sequence that was recommended by KCM and research-based best practices. Our math teachers have done a book study in math fact fluency. We see number talks when I go around to do observations and walkthroughs. We have number talks going on. And we're trying to teach the foundational numeracy skills before we move on to the next step with our students. In reading, as I mentioned in the leadership retreat presentation, we need to strengthen our tier 1 reading instruction school-wide. That's made possible with the implementation of our Read to Achieve grant that we have. We have a reading coach, interventionist, and she is the professional lead for all things reading in our building. We monitor the use of the Fontes Infantile, Orton Gillingham, and the Secret Stories resources that we were able to get through that. And another thing that I really just want to say is we're able to use allocated staff positions that the board has allowed us to have to place instructional assistants, not just in a kindergarten classroom or a first grade classroom, but we also have instructional assistants in our second and third grade classroom that will help with small groups. So if I can get an extra adult in those classrooms to help with the station teaching, like was mentioned before, we're going to make faster gains. Likewise, we had a 0.6 reallocation last month's board meeting, and we have used that to hire a 3-day-a-week math interventionist for grades 4th and 5th, which our data shows that's where we need to make some strong gains. And she's not only doing interventions, but she's also pushing in and doing some small groups in 4th and 5th grade math as well. So I can't express the importance of human resources in our building. And just the last thing that I want to say is just to kind of sum up a lot of the stuff that I've heard tonight. Our battle cry this year, we usually have a theme in our school. Our battle cry this year is recalculate. And I talked to staff on opening day about, you just shared a personal story. I was one of those kids who remind me of a lot of the kids that we serve at our schools. Free reduced lunch kid, didn't have a whole lot, was involved in sports, and that really helped me, hang on to the things that were going on at school. There were special people that were directly, I believe, placed in my life who helped recalculate my path, because I was a kid that could have gone either way. And I want to applaud all of our teachers and bus drivers and custodians and support staff and school administrators who are doing everything they can to recalculate the paths of these kids' lives, because education is their way to success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I can take questions.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. So,
I have a comment that I'd like to make to all of them. Ms. Montgomery's page here, our staff will keep nurturing and growing our students to academic success. I've never heard a child or an adult, either one, say that standardized testing changed their life. And y'all are nurturing and taking care of our kids and trying your best. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the effort and the hard work and how you love on these babies. But also know I'm just as accountable as you all are for these test scores. But continue loving on our babies. Continue being the person that you needed when you were there for them.
thank you. All right. Next up, consent agenda. Any questions or comments on parts of the consent agenda? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Motion Ricky, second Etta. Vote Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. These are action items. 7A, construction documents for Lincoln County Middle School connector. Mr. Yates.
Yes, sir, that's those documents that were presented last week at the working meeting with the middle school connector, just to get the process going. It's already going, keep it going, I guess. Yeah, I think you could probably, I mean, if we're gonna approve them all, I think you can do them one.
Yeah. Any questions about the BG1, BG2, or BG3 documents for the connector? If there are none, I'll accept a motion to approve the BG1, BG2, and BG3 for the Lincoln County Middle School connector.
Motion.
Motion by Ricky, second Bruce. Vote Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. 7B, part-time wastewater coordinator, Mr. Gaten.
Yeah, I won't re-say what everything I said last week, but that's a need that came about by retirement that we really need. We've got to have a person in that position. From what I hear, this is an attractive way to post these guys because they're certified and licensed and all that. So I'd like to approve that.
Question or comment? If there is none, I'll entertain a motion to create a part-time wastewater treatment herbicide application coordinator position and add it to the salary schedule.
Make the motion.
Etta makes a motion, Bruce seconds. Vote Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. 7C, Ransom Construction Pay App number 8, Mr. Yaden.
And just a little update on the welding lab. I had a chance to get out there the last couple of days, actually. Really, we're probably 98%, 99% done with that thing. What we got left is 6 bus plugs we're waiting on to get the supply thing again. Won't take probably a couple hours to install those and get those other 6 welders going. And we had some HVAC work, which those parts came in. We'll get done tomorrow with that. And that will allow us to hook the control system in that goes with the exhaust fans to get all that going. So I really hope we can get this thing done by the end of October and then go walk through it with a punch list, make sure everything's done to our how it's supposed to be done, and then, come back in November and start wrapping this up so you all don't have to prove stuff anymore. I'll have one more little small change order for $1,000 in November, but other than that, and hopefully in November we can wrap this thing up.
Any questions or comments?
I think I told Ed and Gloria over here, it was pretty cool to drive by the other day and see the garage door open. A couple of guys had their welding helmets on. I don't know what they were doing, but there's a couple of students had welding helmets on. It was pretty cool to see. I don't think they were welding, but they had helmets on.
Any questions, comments? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Branson Construction Pay Application number 8 in the amount of $18,957.01. Bruce makes a motion, Ricky seconds. Etta, vote.
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
And I say yes also. 7D, security camera at Lincoln County Middle School, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, I recommend the board to approve the purchase and installation of security cameras at Lincoln County Middle School. The ones we currently have are subpar, to say the least, and I think it's time we make an investment to have up-to-date cameras, and the updates that they'll provide for this is for 10 years. We buy these cameras, we get 10 years of updates and services from them. So it's the same as we did for the high school, and it's been successful out there.
Any questions or comments? If there are none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the purchase and installation of security cameras at Lincoln County Middle School.
I make the motion.
Etta makes a motion, Bruce seconds. Vote. Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. 7E, shortened day or week for students. Ms. Godby.
I think we talked last week about the number of students that you have for shortened school weeks, shortened school days, and our efforts to try to get those in before the attendance audit began instead of spreading those over the course of the year like we normally would. But I will tell you, since I've submitted that to you, we've had
3 new students moving in post-fall break that, so you'll see that again on an upcoming board agenda.
Understand. Any questions or comments? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve a shortened school day week as recommended by the ARC for students with medical needs. Ricky makes the motion, second.
Second.
Etta seconds. Vote, Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
I vote yes also. 7F, MOA for behavioral health, Ms. Thomason.
Yeah, I'm sitting in for Tracy tonight. We just need approval, please, for the MOA, with the Vista Children and Family Counseling Associates and Somerset Mental Health. Yes.
Question or comment? If there is none, I will entertain a motion to approve the memorandums of agreement for behavioral health services with New Vista Children and Family Counseling Associates Incorporated and Somerset Mental Health PSC. I'll make the motion. Bruce seconds. Vote, Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. 7G, supplemental Head Start grant funds, Ms. Rigsby.
We had an amazing opportunity to be able to apply. Granted, it was a short turnaround, but at the end of September to apply for a one-time supplemental grant of $250,000. And tonight I'm seeking approval for the application as well as acceptance of that $250,000 grant. We were granted that. That will be applied towards putting an inclusive classroom or classrooms in the district where we currently are transporting students out of the district for those services. I prefer to keep them here and just service them here in Lincoln County.
Any questions or comment? If there are none, I entertain a motion to approve the application and acceptance of an early childhood supplemental grant in the amount of $250,000. Bruce makes the motion, Ricky seconds. Vote, Etta,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. Special education audit, Mr. Murray.
Got some helpers with me tonight. All right, so as we talked about last time at the work session, we've got a special ed audit that we would like to do. Reason for the audit is because from 3rd through 11th grade, we have a 90% of our special ed students are below benchmark. And there's a 40-point gap between our general ed students and our special ed students in those grade levels. And this audit would help us to do a needs assessment, to figure out district-wide plans for professional learning for our teachers, and help us develop systems of improvement. The recommendation is to do only 3 of the elementary schools at $10,500 a piece, and then the middle school and the high school. And the reason for that recommendation is because I feel like the information that we get from just using the 3 elementary schools will give us enough information to develop district-wide systems and tailor our professional learning as we move forward. Also, so that would be a savings of $21,000. Also, something that we're looking at doing at the high school that will target our special ed population as well as our intervention group is to use a program called Exact Path that would target our interventionists, our students needing intervention at the high school level and our special ed students. And with the $21,000, we could pay for 2 years worth of that program. Reason why I want to go with a program at the high school level for intervention is because secondary teachers are not trained to teach students how to read and how to do basic math. And a program like Exact Path, it's similar to iReady. It targets all of those low-level learners and low-level skills. So that was my point for bringing up Exact Path, is to tell you what else I would like to do with that $21,000 rather than do an audit for 2 schools that I feel like the information isn't going to change from one school to the other.
Question or comment?
I just think not to do the other schools because, I mean, in reviewing the information, they're also gonna be looking for compliance, right? And then also in their observations, looking at best practices and strategies. I don't know if there's something going on at one school that's not in others, and that could be missed. Okay, that's the only concern I have there.
But it's the same lead teachers,
That it is.
so.
It's the two schools that we wouldn't be doing have lead teachers that are split between one of the schools that we would be doing the audit at. So the systems that they're using at the bigger schools are most likely very similar to what they're using at smaller schools. They're the compliance officer at the bigger schools and the smaller schools. So any issues that we see at those bigger schools, you would think would be similar to the smaller schools.
And it's our intention to use the data all together and then scale that up. So use all the feedback and data that we get and scale that up and out to each of the schools.
Any other question or comment? All right. If there's no further, I would entertain a motion to approve the request for an audit of special education services for elementary and high schools to be conducted by educational directions. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Etta seconds, vote. Etta?
Yes, and hopefully your children are gracious. They have made my night.
Lori?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
I vote yes also.
Thank you.
Very well.
Policy 7I, revised, agenda 7I, revised policy 03.21 hiring, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, as done with the first reading last time, basically it's changing wording that we know we use Talent Ed, an online program, to post our positions. And that's updating that. It also allows for us to deny somebody who's intentionally put incorrect information on their applications to avoid things such as background checks and things like that. So it's the same thing we talked about last meeting.
Questions or comments? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and approval of board policy 03.21 hiring. Ricky makes a motion. I'll second. Vote. Etta?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Facility plan update, Mr. Rowe.
As shared with you at the last meeting, speaking with folks at KDE facilities, what was originally passed, talking about the amendment process was not specific enough. So if the board so chooses to go that path, we need a specific motion of saying exactly what we're going to do.
Questions or comment?
So do we need to list what we're gonna do now and then approve those amendments too?
Well, now what we would be doing is what the change we're asking for. Specific.
And then we submit that to KDE for their approval.
So what does the motion need to be tonight, I guess?
Well,
I'm sorry if I act a little bit.
no, it's okay. We just need to further define why we're asking for that change, which is primarily Houston Mill going to a transition building.
Is that it? No?
Well, I mean, it could be, that could be one option. You know,
Well, I mean, that's the thing we need to,
Uh,
basically we need to decide what is the change we want to make to the plan.
I guess I'm still a little bit confused because, you know, there's been no site determined by the board. And you can correct me, but in my understanding, KDE is just assuming, since those two schools were made transitional in this plan, that it's going to be built in the south part of the county. I think when we reviewed the plan for approval back in October of 21, you know, we were told that that a new school could be built for a school that was identified as permanent in the plan. I'm still not sure why Eastonville was put under priority 2, and when we have newer schools, placed under priority 1, when Ed and McKinney were the last to merge. And, if I understand that information that was given to us in an email, by making Eastonville a transitional would not affect our existing bonding capacity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was wrong on that.
I was as well. Yeah. But it could have an effect on our offers of assistance, the SFCC. Well, after being told that, I'm concerned that we had 2 schools made transition back in this new plan. And if 1 can affect it, then 2 would seem to affect it even more so. And in reviewing the document, the facility plan document, I'm still not sure why a finding can't be done, because it's only affecting 1 facility, and that's a reason, as stated in that document. Now, I'm not so sure that it might substantially affect the district's needs assessment. That's the other option. I think we were also told back in August in an email from Mr. Gilbert that that we could place the new school under priority 2 and then decide if that current priority 1 should be moved to make way for an additional new elementary school. And that we could purchase property using restricted funds under the current plan. So I just think that we do need to start this 502 amendment process, because all of this unforeseen occurrence and all this information we didn't have. And now whether it's to make Eastonville a transition or do what Mr. Gilbert said there in that August email.
Of course, when we were talking before, we thought our financial situation would be a lot better also. And it is deteriorated quite a bit for us due to inflation. And I guess my point on this was just, what specific requests do we want to make to Mr. Gilbert or his group? I mean, what specific requests do we have?
I'm gonna make a recommendation that we table it and get the facilities plan, have a working meeting and just go through the facilities plan before we make that decision. I just don't think it's as easy as saying, let's make Eastonville a transitional school tonight. I think it's, let's make Eastonville a transitional school and a list of number of things. If we're gonna get it right, let's get it right.
Okay.
So.
Would you like me to reach out to KDE and see if we can get somebody from KDE to come to the meeting?
Yeah, the one there that usually helps us in the facilities plan meetings.
I don't know if it will, but I mean, I'll reach out and ask.
That's just my recommendation, is that we get, there's a lot of clerical errors that are in that as well. Things that are listed as BC that should be AB or so forth and so on. And just grammatically speaking, it doesn't look professional as well. So this is, if we're going to do it, it's my recommendation that we have a working meeting just for the facilities plan and get it right the first time before we make a recommendation.
I mean, I just think we need something in there for that school of that they're the last ones to merge, and there's nothing that's happened to cause another merger yet. So I just think, they were overlooked. And I know we're going to clean it up, but that new district facility plan needs to be posted for the community to review. I mean, I don't know who does that.
It's available online at the KDE's website.
It is. We can link it to our website.
That's a link. Yeah, it's
because the old one is still up there.
Yeah, the new one's pretty easy to get to. Yeah, well, I won't say that. If you know where to look, it's easy to get to. So, but that's my recommendation. So,
what do you think?
I think we need to dig deep into it, because I would like to have Waynesburg transferred back from a transitional school to a permanent facility. We have no money to build a new school nowhere. And we're chasing our tails around like a bunch of cats talking about this. And, McKinney and Houstonville was the last merged, but Broughtontown was the first, and those kids went to Crab Orchard in Waynesburg. And then we closed Kings Mountain, and those kids went to Waynesburg and Highland, and there's no new building down there for them. And we, it's gonna take a nickel tax to build a new school, a dime tax to build 2 new schools. And we're chasing our tails around and around in a circle like a bunch of cats.
Well, we have to be prepared when the time comes, so we do have to go on.
The
with-
facility plan is
with
good for, it's only good for 2 more years.
It's good.
We won't have no money in 2 years.
It's good for 3 more years.
3 more years.
Well, so,
I agree with Ricky, we need to table this.
yeah, and we'll,
But do check in to see what it takes to make a,
Yep. all right,
It's a simple decision to say, I want this permanent or I want this transition. That's what-
can you get it back from transitional to permanent?
I would think probably the amendment process is probably a part of that. I mean, I'll ask.
Yeah, so that's just, if you can get, I can't remember his name, the guy we work with there with the facilities committee that helped us.
Tim Eaton.
Tim Eaton, yes.
I'll reach out to him.
It'd be great. He's a professional at that.
all right. 7K, Administrative Procedure 02.14 AP.2, Evaluation Superintendent. We in closed session put forth our procedure to evaluate superintendent role for this year. But to do that, we have to waive the procedure that exists in our current board policy. And we just need to do a vote on this to waive this procedure for this year.
Okay, let me make sure that I understand. We're keeping the procedure though, it's just, we're waiving
We're
it
waiving it.
because we're only doing the 3 different standards.
That is correct.
We're not rescinding it or
No,
anything like that.
we're just waiting. All right. I'll make the motion to waive.
Second.
Ricky seconds. Vote. Edda,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. Motion to adjourn. Bruce and Ricky. Vote. Edda,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
Yes also. Thank you all.
I'll let you all know something.